Welcome to the Gospel Liberty Podcast. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Then Moses said to the people of Israel, "See, the Lord has called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with skill, with intelligence, with knowledge, and with all craftsmanship, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold and silver and bronze, and cutting stones for setting, and in carving wood, for work in every skilled craft." So this is from Exodus 35, and it's a passage on the construction of the tabernacle. And if you think about architecture, the topic of this episode here, we've really lost a lot of biblical understanding of aesthetics. Mm-hmm. Aesthetics being the science, the art, the study of beauty. Mm-hmm. And really all beauty is summed up in Christ. Mm-hmm. Christ is the summation of truth, goodness, and beauty. And when we lose an understanding of Christianity, and when our culture loses an understanding of and application of the truths of Christianity, we start to see those three areas deteriorate. Mm-hmm. You see standards of truth deteriorate in postmodernism. Now, when people say, "Oh, all truth is relative," or "This is my truth and your truth, and they can be different," or you start to relativize standards of goodness, mm-hmm. and people say, "You do you, whatever you feel like doing." And then now you've seen standards of beauty get relativized, or just, we don't really understand what beauty is when it comes to people. We're afraid to say that some people are truly more beautiful than others. Some buildings are more beautiful than others. Some interiors of houses, or you look at artwork. No, there are standards of beauty. Yes. And Tucker Carlson has been talking a lot. Oh, is this episode going to get cut off now and canceled because I just said that forbidden person's name? Tucker Carlson is saying a lot recently about architecture, mm-hmm. and the deterioration of beautiful architecture in the West. Yes. And it's something we've been talking about for many years, and I'm glad that he's starting to bring more attention to the fact that as you've seen the West move in a downward trajectory mm-hmm. away from Christianity and the teachings of the Lord in the elite realms. I'm not saying that Christianity is dying in the West by any means, but certainly in many powerful influences, Christianity mm-hmm. has declined in many ways in the past several hundred years. In the West, you've seen the decline of architecture, mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. beautiful architecture. And look at what buildings used to look like, just buildings that were built in, not only the medieval period, but also in the Reformational period, whether it's cathedrals or if it is even houses. You look at what houses look like in New England, for example, yes. in the late 1700s or early 1800s, and the craftsmanship and the concern for detail that went into these buildings. Compared to now, it's just so vastly different.
Yeah, completely. I was going to say, even just study history in general. From all the years past, the, incredible Roman architecture, yes. and just all of these incredible different cultures and societies, and look at the buildings that were mm-hmm. made and created. And there's an abundance of pictures and history and all these incredible sources to look at, mm-hmm. and different materials that were used and everything. And then now, just like you were saying, it's like everything is just like this cookie cutter situation. Yes. All the same houses, all the same office buildings, all the same whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like everywhere you look, there's hardly any unique, mm-hmm. Extravagant buildings made of stone and marble, yes. and brick and all the different, things,
different materials,
different
designs,
sources, and it's truly saddening. Yes. And I'm sure exactly what you're saying. It's completely related to Christianity and just the deterioration over time. Yep. That's just made all these changes.
So Christians, of course, before, in other cultures that have not had a Christian influence, like in the Roman Republic, for example, or you think about Egypt. A lot of these cultures did create beautiful buildings. Some Asian cultures, for example, in China. But once again,
and they were separated from, I mean, it wasn't like they were these thriving Christian societies. Yes,
yep, exactly. And all people are made in the image of God. So just
Amen.
by nature of being made in the image of God, we seek in some ways truth, goodness, and beauty, though sin has corrupted all of our faculties for sure. But we haven't lost the image of God. So
there's that common grace,
yes,
for sure.
So even non-Christians seek beauty in certain things. But then Christians in Christian societies, as the West was largely Christianized after Constantine, and through the Middle Ages and up to the Reformation and post-Reformation, you see that Christians brought the lordship of Christ to bear on their architecture. They thought very deeply about, when they were creating, for example, a cathedral, a church building, how exactly are we going to make this building beautiful? How are we going to think about the design and how it's going to glorify God? And it's not only cathedrals. You see it in all other types of buildings too. We mentioned the housing or businesses. You look at architecture in the Netherlands, which had a huge Reformed influence. Look at architecture in the Netherlands from the 1600s, 1700s. You see it in Lutheran countries like Norway and Sweden, and even Germany had beautiful architecture that was built by German Lutherans, or England with Reformed Presbyterians and Puritans in England. So over and over and over, and the reason why you've seen the deterioration of architecture is because these cookie cutter, no beauty, just 4 bare walls and just straight lines all across, and that's all it is. That dehumanizes people, because it's just saying you are no different than just some animal. Animals aren't concerned with making something uniquely beautiful or thinking about the design. They're just thinking about function.
Yeah.
And yes, the Lord is behind animals that do create beautiful things. Of course, you can think of a bird's nest that's beautiful, or a beaver's dam is beautiful, but they're not creating it for beauty. It's just the
practicality of
it's exactly. It's the practicality of the function of needing to survive.
And that's what these homes are now. Even, for example, we were saying how, both of our parents had, they're basically custom homes, both. It wasn't just,
and it's not like they were extremely
wealthy.
Was,
growing up, it was the same exact house as the one next door, and then one next down the street. And there's 5 houses and they all just look the same, but maybe slightly different color, and maybe, one is 2-story and one is a single level.
Yep.
And same with my parents. It's like, they had such beauty in these homes and quality of the craftsmanship. And where now, it's just, that's just all practical.
Yes.
Okay, here's a plot of land far out or wherever you are in the city. Okay, let's quarter acre. Everyone gets the same thing, and everything is the same in the home, and it's just sad.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing, because it's just a matter of once again treating the person like an animal, that you just need a dwelling to live in, and it doesn't matter at all what it looks like. Now,
and get it for the cheapest price.
Yes.
And so therefore, get all the cheapest products, but then, kind of paint it, make it kind of look semi-good. And then, they get their profit. Yep,
exactly. Whereas what you were saying, our parents were middle-class people. We're obviously extremely blessed and very, very thankful to the Lord for our parents. It's absolutely amazing. But I'm just saying in fact, we weren't upper-class people. And yet they were able to afford just a unique house, wonderful house and it was unique from the one right next door.
Yep.
My point is that even as recent as, the last 20, 30 years, this was just the norm. It was the norm for houses right next door to each other to be different from one another, and to have a uniqueness, to have a beautiful design where the architect and the construction worker actually cared about what the things looked like, rather than just the utility. And that's what we've gone to in our society, is just creating buildings primarily or only for their function, for their utility, rather than for their beauty, because that's how we see people. We just see people as, as just something that I can utilize for my own profit. Yes. Rather than a human being that is created in God's image, and that we should be magnifying the dignity of that person. We just treat everyone like there's some tool who can just get me what I want, or who's just a product of the big state who's going to, contribute to the state's goals or whatever it is.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure there's also, the rise of inflation and just how,
cost of living,
the cost of living and the prices of things, to create something versus, back then, it was cheaper to get, all your different products, to create some beautiful masterpiece.
Oh, certainly. That's very true. But even if you just think about, what we prioritize with our finances nowadays, there's not a lot of concern with that people have with the decor of their home, for example. That is less common today than it used to be. Or, when they're thinking about what a building actually looks like, would we actually prioritize something to make it beautiful rather than just, spending our money on the latest video game or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And all of this is, especially when it comes to like businesses or even, civil government buildings, you can tell, because if people would prioritize, I want to go and patronize this business because it has a beautiful building, then the free market would push these businesses to want to make a beautiful building because they want to get a leg up from the competition.
Yes.
But people's eye toward beauty and aesthetics has dropped as they've just been preached this dehumanizing worldview that comes from secular humanism and the civil government school system, that businesses don't have to differentiate themselves to the same degree when it comes to, creating something beautiful, because it's within everybody's psyche that I'm just here to get my 99-cent McChicken or whatever it is and get on the road so I can fill my stomach with the, least amount of nutrients as possible, just so I can, feel like I'm full for a second and then move on to my next task.
Exactly. I think that, the eye, if you have the eye for it, is so huge, because I do feel like a lot of people, maybe you have the eye if you're a design major,
yes.
or if you're an architect or whatever, but it's like, there's very few people that even are aware of aesthetics. And yeah, people have just been even just turned off, or just that doesn't concern me, or it doesn't matter, whatever's the most practical, or whatever's
yes.
the cheapest, whatever, go get it from IKEA, and then rather than thinking about the beauty of something, yes. and the quality of whatever it may be, I do think that people are just turned off to it, or just
yes.
blinded to it too,
yep.
that they're not even thinking of architecture even as a whole.
Yeah, and Christians especially have been preached this unbiblical worldview that Christianity is just purely immaterial. It's this hyper immaterialized worldview where nothing really matters that's physical, and things don't really matter on this earth, they're taught. It's just, your goal is just to trust in Jesus for your spiritual, non-material salvation, and then just live your life without committing any serious lust or killing anyone or embezzling money from your company, and then you die, and then you are disconnected from your body forever, and you go and live with the Lord in the clouds with the babies playing the harps. And that is what they have been taught Christianity is, rather than bring the lordship of Christ to bear on everything.
Yes.
And once again, the Lord cares deeply about beauty. If he didn't, why would he have cared about what the temple of God looked like and equipped Bezalel, like I said, for this task in Exodus 35 of beautiful artistic expression within the temple?
Or why would he allow the sunset to be so
yes.
incredible and so different? Or look at the sky, or look at a zebra,
yes.
or the thousands of flowers or fish in the ocean, or, look at
yep.
anything, the beautiful, palm tree, or,
yes.
whatever it may be, the snow coming down on January day.
Amen.
It's like there is so much beauty
Yes.
that the Lord has and is creating every single day. That obviously it's something
Yes.
high on his list that he cares about.
Yep.
Because it's all around us.
Yes, and he says that explicitly, in Genesis at creation, when he's describing the Garden of Eden, and he describes it in terms of beauty, and you see these different gems that are there, and these, the gold. That gold is there, and onyx, and then you see, Revelation at the end, and the new heavens and new earth.
Oh, all the descriptions.
And
the
description is
unbelievable.
It's very clearly a description of something beautiful.
Yes.
So you see that in the Garden of Eden. You see that in the temple, in the tabernacle. You see that in Jerusalem and in David's house, his actual dwelling place with the palace, for example, that was for Solomon. And all over Scripture, you see these descriptions of it. You see it even with people. You see it in Song of Solomon that talking about or this person was beautiful, or that person was beautiful,
or even Joseph's coat was beautiful.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, there's just, its beauty is literally littered throughout Scripture.
Yes,
and it's all over. It is just, it's a very high importance and thing to talk about.
And when we disconnect art from the Christian worldview, that's when we lose a lot of evangelistic capabilities.
Yes.
We lose evangelistic capabilities, and we're just not glorifying Christ once again, because Christ is the Lord of beauty. People, the Lord, yes, it's the spoken word of the gospel. I'm not saying that we just create beautiful art and we never speak the gospel truth, not at all. But we should be combining truth. We should be combining the words that we say, the actions that we do, and the beauty by which we express our words and our actions, and how we take care of our properties and what our church buildings look like. All of these things should come together to preach the gospel. And once again, I'm not saying that you can, preach the gospel, if necessary, use words. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. The gospel, the good news, is spoken words.
Amen.
What these other things do is adorn that beautiful message. And it gives,
a beautiful enhancement.
Yes, exactly. It's not that, I'm preaching the gospel, but my yard is just a complete wreck. My car is filled with dirty soda cans and pizza stains all over the floor, and it reeks like garbage. But oh wow, come and be brought into this beautiful Christian life. It's like, wait a second. Well, no, God is a God of order, and He's a God of beauty. So we should be concerned about beauty as well. And that's what glorifies God. Glorify meaning magnify. It shines the light on what the Lord really is like.
Yes.
When we care about beauty in our architecture and in all things. So next time, hopefully we all look around and we say, okay, the strip mall, that's just some cookie cutter strip mall or whatever, how can we contribute to a desire to bring back beautiful architecture? And you see this in Western European countries all over the place. And what they look like, when the buildings were built in 1700s or 1800s or even the 1900s, and you can see just in general what these the type of work and thought and design and care that went into this architecture. And
True masterpieces.
They're masterpieces, and they had such little technology compared to what we have now. It was way harder for them to create these things because they don't have the same technology that we do now. It should be something in one sense that's even easier for us because we have all of the latest and best tools and technology and resources.
No, totally.
So let's think about how we can glorify Christ in all areas of life, and let's not settle for just being dehumanized with just these very basic, bland, standard buildings just to quote unquote get the job done. No, let's glorify Christ in our architecture, recognizing that we all don't have the same resources, like you said before. But we do want to do what we can and do our best with the resources the Lord has given us, all under an understanding that this is all by grace once again. And this is all because of the grace that we've received through Christ and the cross. This is why we want to glorify him with how we beautify everything and how we beautify the architecture that we can have influence over. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Gospel Liberty Podcast.